And Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said there are 5 degrees of prayer, 5 categories of people in regards to the performance of their prayer. The first one, he says, this is a person who is negligent and huwa zalimun li nafsi. He wrongs himself. So this is a person who wrongs his soul. And he says this is a person who doesn't perform the wudu properly. This is a person who doesn't pray on time. This is a person who doesn't fulfill the essential pillars, right? So you get the idea. This is a person who's very reckless, even with the bare minimum, the outward expectations of the salah. And he said this is a person who will be punished, right? This is not a person who can expect that they will be forgiven for their salah. Of course, Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who passes the ultimate degree, but this is the salah of one who is punished, right? Because you are foregoing the essential pillars. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about Bani Israel, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ, that there came after them a people that lost the prayer. And that was through delaying the prayer beyond its time, right? And in the process, سَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا, that they would find a valley in Jahannam for themselves in return. And so the salah of the one who wrongs their soul is the salah of one who can expect consequences for the negligence of their prayer on the Day of Judgment. May Allah protect us. Allahumma ameen. The second level, he says, is someone who prays on time. They pray with the specified limits. They fulfill the essential pillars. They do their wudu properly. So they're doing the external right. But when they go into salah, they are completely preoccupied by everything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the externals are fine. Technically speaking, they did everything they were supposed to do with their wudu. Technically speaking, they entered into their salah. And on the outside, it looks like it's a valid prayer. But everything is lost on the inside to the preoccupations of this world and to paying attention to everything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, this is the salah of a person who will be held accountable and may or may not be forgiven. Meaning they're relegated to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. Allah might overlook their shortcomings, their inward shortcomings, but you don't want your salah to be at a category 2 to where it's hanging in the balance in that regard, right? The most important thing that you'll be asked about on the Day of Judgment, and the internal quality is all lacking. You don't want that to be the case, especially since the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that a person will get from their prayer what was put into it, right? So there's only the amount of focus that you have that will determine what actually transcends and transfers on the Day of Judgment for your account. So the second person is someone who is, in this gray area. They may or may not be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. He says the third level is someone who guards all of the externals. So just like category 2 now, they do wudu properly, they pray on time, they fulfill the pillars. And this is a person who spends the salah busy struggling against the distractions of the shaitan. But they never actually get focus. So they're not actually tasting the sweetness of salah because they're too busy fighting with their distractions, fighting with their thoughts, fighting with the shaitan. And so in the capacity that they are in, they are engaged in both salah and jihad. Okay, because they're striving against themselves. Yeah. So this is someone who is doing jihadun nafs. I'm trying and I'm frustrated because I'm not tasting the sweetness of my salah, but I did everything right. I'm struggling against my thoughts. I'm struggling against the whispers of the shaitan, but I'm not quite tasting the sweetness of the salah. He says this is the salah of a person who's forgiven. All right, so this person, because they were trying, that is what at the end of the day you want to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the bare minimum, that I was trying. And so this is a person who will be forgiven. The fourth level, and you can see every level now is building on the one before, so I don't have to repeat everything. So does everything right externally, fulfills the pillars, does the proper wudu, and they have crossed the threshold to where they're actually now devoting their concern towards the salah when they are in the salah. So they're in the salah and they're paying attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're paying attention carefully to the meanings of the words that they're reciting, to the various motions, and they're careful to not lose the internal quality of the salah either. Okay, so they've crossed that threshold. And he said, this is a person who will be rewarded for their salah on the Day of Judgment. Right? So it's not just that I won't be punished, that I passed an obligation, but this is a person who can expect the ajr on the Day of Judgment, the extra reward for their salah, that all that they did within the performance of their prayer will also yield some sort of a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what would be the fifth one? That seems like the best one, right? He says the fifth one is just like the fourth one, but there's a key difference. This is a person who looks towards the salah with a heart full of anticipation, whose salah has become their greatest relief in life, whose salah is their joy. And so when they go into their salah, all of the preoccupations and the thoughts and the distractions, they melt, they vanish in this conversation between that abd and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between that slave and Allah. May Allah grant us this prayer. Allahumma ameen. The veil between that person and the Lord has been lifted. And he says that the difference between this person and the others in respect to their salah, meaning category 5 versus the others, is like the distance between the heavens and the earth. Because this person is not just someone who's busy with the Lord, this person is delighted by the Lord. And this is, of course, most manifested by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,